Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tammy's Takes, where you guys will get my take on a particular topic. Now, before I jump into the topic, I need you guys to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. The more people that is in the channel, the more we can have these conversations amongst each other, ask questions, communicate, and build a community so that we can walk through this life together. So this particular topic for me is actually a difficult one. Um, I'm not going to tear up because I think I've done enough of that. But today we will be discussing grief, and for me, and this is grief particularly when it comes to losing loved ones. So, in this last season, summer season, spring to summer season, I have had four significant people in my personal life pass away, transition on. That is my aunt, one of my closest family friends, her father, one of my best friends, her father, who was like a father figure to me, and then here recently, um, my uncle, and this was an uncle that was very close to me and my family. This is my father's older brother. This was someone that was very prevalent in my life as a child, all the way up into my adulthood. And with all of those losses, it made me want to discuss grief in a very vulnerable way. So here I am discussing grief and giving you guys my take on it. Now, here's a little background about me. I have worked in hospice care. I did hospice care for 2 years in my late 20s to early 30s, around the time that my mother passed. Working in that particular sector of healthcare does give you a different perspective of the death and dying process, but it is very medical based. Like, you don't even think about it in an emotional way. You tend to be very um, morbid about it, or not even morbid. You tend to just be very straightforward with it. This is the process. This is the process of the body going back to the earth. This is the process of the soul leaving the shell. Things of that nature. And in part of my brain, when someone closest to me dies, I don't grieve right away. I tend to go to that part of my brain first, where it's like, okay, this is the natural part of life. We are not here to be on this earth forever. Our shell, our flesh, it does die every day. We age, we decay, we lose abilities to do things that we used to do, and we are going back into our state of being a part of the earth. So I tell myself that. But then there's the emotional part of grief, where it comes in waves, it comes in moments, and it comes in times where you don't necessarily know how to navigate, or you don't understand why the grief is the way that it is. So for me, if you know me in my real life, I have delayed reactions to almost all negative emotions. I don't process the negative emotion right away. And that's with any form of grief, with a breakup, with losing someone, losing a job, failing a test. I'm always a little bit delayed in responding to it. Like, when I first get the news, I'm kind of like, okay, that's what happened. Kind of very logical about it. Someone passed away. I failed a class. We broke up. Whatever the case may be. And then as the logics go away and the emotions behind it set in, I find myself not necessarily spiraling out of control, because I'm not one of those people, but I do find myself sitting in it a little bit. Here recently, like I said, I lost four people that were significant in my life. The latest one being my uncle, and even though I knew my uncle was ill, and the last time I saw him, he told me he wasn't feeling well, there's still a sadness to not knowing that I won't ever see him walk into my parents' home again. I won't ever hear, "What's up, Doc?" again, because he used to call me Doc. Or, "I'm waiting on you." So he would always tell me he was waiting on me to do some big thing, because in his eyes, I was going to be doing major things. Also, the waiting for you was, he was also waiting for me to get married and have kids, because I got married later on in life. And then when I told him that I didn't want kids, that was a whole other conversation that me and him, that was actually our last conversation that we had, was why I did not want to become a mother. And he kind of cackled, because he was like, "I can see that, Tammy. I can see you, I can see you being a mother, but I can see why you don't want to be one." So that was one of my last conversations with my uncle. And although I didn't see him in his transitioning, which a part of me wanted to go see him because I knew he was passing away, and then another part just wanted to remember my uncle the way I remembered him. But I also, in these last couple of days, have just really been feeling meh and melancholy and low about all the people that are passing on from this life to the next. And I have these emotions, like, I'm happy that they're no longer suffering. I'm happy that they are not in a space where they feel pain, where they feel hurt, where they feel like they can't do what they used to be able to do, where they're not their former selves. And so they are probably ready to be in the land of milk and honey, if you believe in heaven or hell, or afterlife. But when you are on this side of death, a lot of us can't help but to miss and grieve and mourn those that we no longer see. And sometimes for me, I don't always like to live in that space. I like to be like, I'm okay. Like, I know they're in a better place. I know they're not suffering anymore. But then I was talking to my therapist, and she's like, "No, it's okay for you to sit in your sadness. It's okay for you to feel the feels." And she was like, "And it's okay for you to not have to be the one that is I'm happy or bringing the joy." Because a lot of my life, I placed on myself. No one placed this on me. I know I placed this on myself. In times of grief or sadness, or when I see people in pain or in hurt, I tend to want to be like, "Okay, I know you're in pain. I know you're hurting. I know you're crying, but I want to be a source of joy for you. So I will sacrifice my sadness to make sure that they're not sad." And in this go around, I know that my cousins, my other family members are grieving the loss of my uncle tremendously, because he was a great uncle and a great father, and a big part of our family. But at the same time, it was like, okay, I have I should also be okay with feeling sad and missing him, and feeling sad not only for the loss of my uncle, but the loss of my father figure, that he passed away a couple of weeks ago, my aunt as well, another father figure in my life. So having these people transition on definitely made me start to think about not only grieving, but my own mortality. Like, I'm only 42, but in the process of losing people important to me, I've also seen people as young or younger than me pass away as well, and grieving that, even because I'm an empath. Like, I had someone in my graduating class from high school pass away, and to see someone that's my age pass away was sad to me. And of course, I know that we all are going to make that appointment. I know that we all are going to have to die, but it doesn't take away the sadness when you do lose someone. And so for me, I am leaning into the days that I don't have the capacity or I don't want to be, because most of the time I do lean into the happy version of me, and I don't like to be around people when I'm sad. I don't like to put that burden on other people, because I personally feel like if I'm grieving and you're not, I don't want to bring you down. Now, I have people in my life that no matter what the emotion I am emoting, they're going to be there for me. You know, if I'm sad, they're going to be like, be sad, I got you. You know, if you need support, I am going to support you. And it is a beautiful thing to have that type of support system. But I've been talking about even planning for that time when I have to pass on. I've spoke to my husband about this, and my husband is very good at being logical when it comes to even the death and dying process. There was a time that he wasn't, but now in his older years, he's very much logical, but also very much comforting when it comes to death. When we have conversations about it, because his perspective on it is that it's not a finality and it's a better life. This is just, I want to say how he put it. Not just, it wasn't like a game that you play and you get to play it over again, but think about it in that in that realm. But talking to him, even in the midst of sometimes like when he has had moments where he was sick and that was a possibility that he wasn't going to be here long, he was very open about his feelings, and I sometimes am in awe as to how he thinks of grief and death, because I am so emotional sometimes about it. Like I said, I understand that it's an appointment that we're all going to make. I understand that it's something that we all will do, but I'm also a crybaby, and I get sad, and I get overwhelmed sometimes with it, because it brings up so many feelings for me. And then for me, when I lose one person, it makes me think about all the people that I lost. So like losing my uncle made me think about losing my, and I'm going to say father figure because it was my best friend's father, but he was also much a father figure to me. And my aunt, losing those people, and my other father figure, well, he was a church member, but for me, the two other men in my life that passed away were church members, but they were also very much father figures in my life, because my church family was family. We went over their houses, we spent the night, we grew up with each other, our parents knew each other, we played card games, we got Christmas gifts from these people. So when I say I come from a big community of people, I come from a big family, not only do I mean blood, but also those extended parts of my community that I've lost. And when it comes to the grief and feeling sad and sitting in that sadness, not to the point where I am depressed or I can't function, but to the point where I notice that my spirit is low. And it's because grief has a way of doing that to you. Grief has a way of stopping you in your tracks sometimes and slowing you down and allowing you to appreciate the people that you have left, but also focus on memories. A lot of the times when we are grieving, we focus on the sadness, but I also want to make sure that I'm honoring the time that I did have with all of those people that I did lose, even if it does bring up some of those sad emotions. Now, fresh grief is fresh grief. I tell people all the time, even though I do have the delayed reaction, it is okay to feel the feelings that you're feeling. One of my actual therapist did say that, like, it's okay to feel sad, to feel melancholy, to be fatigued, to be overwhelmed with the thought of like, oh, I won't see them anymore, or I won't have another conversation with them. It is human nature to go from the logic part of like, I know that we all are going to die, to being like, but why right now? Why do I have to mourn this person at this point in time, even though we know that everybody that we come in contact with is eventually going to make that transition. And so, in the midst of me grieving and in the midst of me missing the people that I've lost recently, I am grateful for those moments. And I think that's the beauty about grief, when you do accept the fact that you are not going to see these people in this time space anymore, that you do have the memories, that you do have the happy moments, that you do have support and community. I think sometimes people don't sit in their grief because they don't have good outlets to grieve. And for me, I will say that I have good outlets. One, I'm the type of person, I like to live in life very sober-minded, even when I do have negative feelings, and that's inclusive of grief. Like, I'm not one of those people that like to, what's the word? Medicate? Self-medicate? Self-soothe? Self-medicate. I don't want to be in a fog because I'm grieving. I just, even though I feel like it. Now, part of that is because I'm getting older and I got brain fog and I'm tired. And I think also this go around, the grief was a little bit harder because of hormones. We really got to start talking about perimenopause and menopause in women, because these emotions and these symptoms is crazy. That's a whole nother story of grieving your youth, because what is going on with me and my achy joints at 42. But that's all I really wanted to say about grief, is that, if you have lost someone recently or not, because like I said in my last video, I lost my mother 13 years ago, and losing my uncle and seeing my dad break down, because this was his older brother. I wish I had my mom there to say some encouraging words to her husband, to my father, because she was normally really good at that, but I don't have her anymore. So it's having those feelings of like, oh, and now I have to be the strong individual, but not to the point where I am not honoring myself either. That is the thing that I am working on, is making sure that in the grieving moments, when grief does hit and those sad feelings do come, it's okay to feel those feelings, as long as you are not getting to the point where it is stopping you from living your life. Because I also think that those that transition on want us to still be lively and love and experience life that we have. And grief also brings up those feelings, like, am I living to the fullest before I transition from this world? So that's what I've been thinking, like, what can I do to make sure that I'm living to the fullest? But also, if I want to just lay in the bed some days because I just need to, because I don't have the capacity to be cheerful or get up and go, or my normal jovial self, that's okay too. It's okay to sometimes say, I just don't have the capacity to do that because I'm in my own feelings. That's something I may need to work on as I get older and mature and wiser, to say, if I'm grieving too, It's okay for me to do that as well. And I encourage anyone out there that is going through grief to make sure that you have the support that you need, if that is grief counseling, therapy, prayer, group counseling, journaling, meditation, whatever form of support that you need to get you through those emotions. By as long as it's healthy and safe and it's not going to cause any harm to you, I would say make sure you do it with support and guidance, because I know some people may use other forms of therapy that need guided, that do require medication, that may need guidance. But make sure you have the support that you need, and make sure that you honor those that transition on in a way that is reminiscent of your relationship, but also just reminiscent of life in general. A lot of the times, I think when death happens, we get so down and out that we do forget that we are still in the land of the living, and that we should still live, even though we are having moments that are sad. So leave your comments and thoughts below. What do you do in moments of grief? Do you have the support system that you need when you are grieving? Are you like me? Do you have delayed reactions and then it hits you like a ton of bricks, or do you feel it instantly and you kind of allow yourself to have all the feelings as they flow from you? Comment, like, subscribe. This was a short video maybe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.